Hey, I want to talk about the student protests that have been going on in the UK recently regarding the government cutting funding of universities and also raising the cap on tuition fees, and also just about higher education or education in general. The tuition fees cap was raised such that universities can now charge students up to £9,000 a year for tuition. And one of the arguments I've heard is students claiming that they can't afford those kind of fees. Well, neither can I. I can't afford the current fees of about £3,500 a year. That's why we have a system in which we take out a loan to pay for our tuition, which we can then pay back later when we're earning a certain amount. And that certain amount that we have to be earning in order to begin paying back the loan has been raised in accordance with the raising of the tuition fees cap. So I personally don't really see how that's an issue, but anyway. There are two ways you can subsidise education. You can subsidise the producer, or you can subsidise the consumer. If you subsidise the consumer, then you inevitably get competition because the producers have to compete for as many consumers as possible, which means improving the levels of their services as much as possible. If you subsidise the producers, then you get deadening uniformity as the government inevitably gets involved with the producers that it's subsidising. This is why you get such large and ineffective bureaucratic bodies in the National Health Service, because the government, once they're involved and they're putting tax money into that institution, then they want to keep tabs on everything that's going on there. So with regard to education, you get state administration deciding what the students are taught, who does the teaching, and even in some cases what school the students go to. So the parents don't get a say in the kind of teaching their child receives. Their choices are severely limited by the stagnation that inevitably occurs as a result of state-funded production of education. With regard to universities in particular, the more the government subsidises the universities, the smaller the amount that the student will have to pay in order to receive higher education. And the smaller that amount, the more likely you're going to have a large number of students applying just for the experience, because housing's good, it's cheap, and because there are lots of other young people there. Not to mention that the cheaper and cheaper this kind of higher education becomes for the student, the more a degree loses its position as an indication of academic excellence, because as I say, you'll get lots of students just coasting along, and they're only there for the experience, and at the end they get a degree. It ceases to be a mark of true academic pursuit. Whereas when you know you're paying X amount for every lecture, then you have a real incentive to excel in your given course. A subsidised university would have both of these types of students, creating a situation in which those that don't particularly care about performing well academically can make it harder for those that do. And those government subsidies to the universities have to come from somewhere, and they come from taxes. So you have a situation where people who don't go to university, or whose offspring don't go to university, are subsidising, against their will, those that do. And I don't think that can be justified, certainly not on a moral level. I agree that everybody, regardless of their social and or economic background, who has a desire for higher education should be able to get it, provided they're willing to pay the cost of their tuition, either while at university or later on by working a well-paid job that the higher education will make possible. So yeah, there's a couple more things I could say on this issue, but I think I'm going to wrap this up about now. If you take issue with anything that I've said, let me know in the comments section, or make a video response, whatever. And I'll try to address it as best I can. I might make a follow-up video, whatever. I've posted a link in the down below bar. It's just a neat little video, definitely worth watching, that just talks about how to best deal with the problems with public schools. So yeah, please like, favourite and subscribe. Bye.